You have to make them feel like they're the most special partner in your partner network, because otherwise you'll die on the vine, because out of sight, out of mind. And I think that's the mistake people make, is that they think they can run a partner program without it being high touch.
Welcome to Go-to-Market Playmakers, where we bring you winning go-to-market strategies from the industry's best. Each episode, we sit down with B2B tech and SaaS founders, executives, and industry playmakers who've mastered the art of taking products and services to market. Whether you're scaling a startup, refining your go-to-market motion, or driving revenue growth through a channel program or partner ecosystem, this is where you'll learn the plays that work. I'm your host, Jeremy Bayless. Today's theme is fixing the partner disconnect. How to align partners with your go-to-market strategy. I'm joined by John Golden from Pipeliner CRM. John is the Chief Strategy and Marketing Officer there at Pipeliner. It's a next-generation sales enablement platform. John's a globally recognized sales and marketing strategist, best-selling author of a book called Winning the Battle for Sales and Social Upheaval, and he hosts Sales Pop, a top 2% global podcast with over 1,500 interviews. He's a former CEO of Huthwaite and brings decades of hands-on experience helping B2B tech companies scale through intentional go-to-market strategies, sales enablement, customer-centric growth systems. John brings a lot of insight to this conversation. I value the way that he's thinking about this from a philosophical context, the way that he's talking about partner relationships with empathy and trust and understanding and going to market together, I think is really valuable. I hope you take away as much from this as I did. Let's get straight into it. Hey, John, I really appreciate you coming on the show. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, listen, it's my pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
I am really looking forward to what we're discussing today. Before we get into it, can we start with your origin story? How did you get to where you are today?
It's a long and winding road, like most things in
Right.
life. From my accent, you probably tell, I grew up in Ireland, and in the 90s, I joined a startup in Dublin, computer-based training system, CBT systems, that did computer-based training. Networking, Microsoft, Microsoft products, all of that good stuff. And then they opened a sales and marketing hub in Silicon Valley. And the thing, it was a .com, everything took off, right? So the company was taking off. So they offered me an opportunity, because I had started to travel over and support the salespeople, like represent the development center and, do road shows and breakfast seminars and all of that kind of stuff. And then they offered me an opportunity to go over. The general manager in Dublin called me in and said, hey, interested in going to, move into San Francisco, to Silicon Valley? And I said, yeah, sure, why not? And he said, well, how long will it take you to get everything together and be ready? And I said, well, let's see, it's 11 o'clock now. I can be ready by 3. So, I literally kind of jumped on a plane a few days later and took off for Silicon Valley. And then, so I was there during the .com boom, which was an incredible experience. But what I would say is it definitely wasn't representative of the US, right, in its totality. It was a kind of its own bubble at the time. And it was exciting, and it was, there was so much going on. You're watching all these new .coms pop up and all of this kind of stuff. And everybody kind of believing this concept that you could have a company that didn't have to worry about profitability or actually being able to pay for itself at any stage, because you'd all go to IPO, you'd all get loads of money and all of that. And I even had somebody working for me who had a friend who had a .com and basically bought a lodge up in Tahoe, had a nice house and all this. Fast forward, obviously the .com implosion happened. That poor guy ended up sleeping on the couch of the guy who worked for me, which is, So
Wow.
he went from visiting his Tahoe lodge to having the guy sleep on his couch, because it was all, as you know, it was all paper money that didn't have value. And so, which was great, because I learned a lot about business, and I learned a lot about business fundamentals, and that as you as you move forward and as things kind of evolve and business evolves and stuff, there are certain things that stay consistent, right? And some business fundamentals and understanding, your path to profitability and being able to sustain yourself was one of them. After that, I moved to New Horizons Computer Learning Centers in Orange County. I joined the executive team of the franchisor. And that was a great experience because that was my first time as an executive, like executive level. And the story I tell everybody, the first thing I did was hire a coach because I thought, okay, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it properly. And so I hired a coach, and on our first meeting, she said, okay, so what are your goals? And I said, well, I want to be the best VP on the team and I want to blah, blah, And she goes, okay. She goes, why don't you want to be the CEO? And I said, well, I mean, I would like at some stage, and she goes, well, if you only set your target at being the best VP, she goes, that's all you're going to be. If you set your target at being the CEO, then you'll start to prepare yourself for that and put yourself on that path. And you also know, what you visualize and what you put out there, and all that. And so after that, I moved to a startup in Pennsylvania for a while, K-12, which was quite interesting. I learned the power of the teachers' unions. If you've ever tried, don't. It's one of the toughest things to sell into with school districts and stuff in the state. The teachers union just have such a lockdown on them, So it was teacher professional development, and it was changing the paradigm for them, and that wasn't very easy. And after that, I joined the Mortgage Bankers Association for a while and ran their for-profit training and professional development wing. Which was interesting because I was there for the dot-com implosion, and I was in real estate for the financial crisis.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, so I always say, if you want to hire me, if you want to implode an industry,
Right.
What was fascinating about that, Jeremy, I'll tell you, is that we learned about it. I knew about what was coming before other people did because we could see from subprime and the stuff that was going on. And, when people were going, oh, it's only subprime, there'll be no contagion, you could see that there was going to be contagion, right? And anyway, around that time, I got offered the opportunity to take over as CEO of Huthwaite, which was spin selling, Neil Rackham's research and book on sales. So the IP for that, he had set up Huthwaite originally. He was no longer there. It was owned by a parent company, Informa, which was fantastic. Is they had all these businesses, like 50, 60 businesses. I can't remember how many. But if they hired you to run one of their business units, they didn't hire you as a business unit leader. They hired you as a CEO for that business. And they basically said, here's the business, you go run it. Here's what we expect you to deliver in terms of revenue and profit. Other than that, you do whatever you do. And so it was amazing to get to run a company basically doing whatever you wanted to do and run it. And so that was pretty successful. So they gave me two companies. So I was CEO of two companies for a while for them, Omega Performance being the other, which was really interesting. And I stayed there for 5-6 years. Then those businesses were sold. We helped sell them to Providence Equity. And then I started up on my own. Do management consulting, moved back out here to San Diego because my wife wanted to come here. And I started gathering clients, and one of my early clients was Nicholas Kimla from Pipeliner CRM, and I did some projects with him. And then he eventually said, why don't you just come on and be just be my partner, and let's just do this together. And so that's what I did, and I've been with Pipeliner in the last 10 years.
Incredible. What a story. So I think what's apparent here, the level of experience that you're bringing at executive level, sales leadership level, running companies, selling companies, I think gives you a really distinct insight, particularly with what we're discussing today around partner ecosystems and channel partners. And the theme of today really is the partner disconnect and what to do about it. And with that experience, I'm really interested in your perspective as we're looking at partner programs. What are, from your experience, some of the common traps and issues when we consider the secret that a lot of these programs aren't successful or are underperforming to expectations, or just aren't being run in the way that they should or could be. What's driving this, and why aren't we talking more openly about this?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things, Jeremy. And one I would say, and this is something I actually, ironically, I learned at New Horizons, because I said New Horizons was a franchisor, right? So I ran the products and programs. So I had products and programs and stuff that I needed the franchisees to sell. And this wasn't a franchise network where you could tell them what to sell. They decided what they wanted to sell.
Mm-hmm.
And so it wasn't like a McDonald's or something. This is a lot different. So I learned that, number one, it's like when you have an intermediary, you have to sell to the franchisee and persuade them to sell to their customer. And it's just very similar with partners, right? Is when you set up a partner network, you have to sell the partner first. And you have to, sell your vision, and convince them that this is something that they want to do. And then you have to equip them to sell to their customer base. And I think that's fundamentally where it falls down sometimes at the beginning, because I think a lot of companies, and we've probably all been guilty of this, you're so excited about your product or your offering, you think, wow, why wouldn't you want to be a partner? It's so fantastic.
Right.
And we also think that if I say to you, oh, Jeremy, you're going to earn 50 points on everything, and blah, blah, it's going to be great, and it's going to be all of this, thinking that our product or service is so great, and the commercials I'm offering are so great, why wouldn't you come on board? Not realizing that I'm probably one of 50 people who are pinging you for saying the exact same thing, saying my product is the best, I'm going to give you the best return and all of that. So I think the first part is not realizing that your first sale is to the partner, is you just even to get them interested. So you have to make sure that, just like you would if you were selling directly, you have to understand their motivations, their drivers, and in any partner ecosystem, they can be very different from partner to partner. And then once you convince them, then you have to equip them to be able to sell. And then I think the other part is, I think people have sometimes this idea that you can set up, sign up your partners, set up a partner network, and then it'll somehow organically, it'll run itself and it'll be exciting. And you're not realizing, that partners normally have multiple products. Maybe they rep multiple vendors or whatever. And at the end of the day, whatever brings them the most money is likely to be the one that's going to win. But in order to get there, you need to have them actively selling. So you have to stay very heavily connected, where you have to communicate, over-communicate. You have to support them. You have to make them feel like, they're the most special partner in your partner network, because otherwise you'll die on the vine, because, out of sight, out of mind. And I think that's the other mistake people make, is that they think they can run a partner program without it being high touch.
Okay, there's a couple of points you made there, and I think we could run separate podcast episodes just on those. This is so good. I want to start with the partners acquisition sale, so getting the partners into your program. Why do you think that the vendor or the partner program owner or manager sees their route to market through partner go-to-market play as the motion ending once they've signed the partner? Where does that come from? Do you think that isn't well thought out or understood? It boggles my mind that the motion stops once we get you to sign.
Yeah, I think part of the problem it can be, and it depends obviously on the organization. But if you're aggressively recruiting and you're saying, I want a big partner network and all of this, you kind of get into that hunter mode, right?
Yes.
Where you're going after more and more. And I think that oftentimes, in small, medium organizations, the partner program might be run by 1-2 people, maybe, sometimes. So if you're in hunter mode and you're always like trying to recruit new, you're not doing the nurturing part. So either you need to have somebody immediately that you can rely on to do the nurturing part if you have aggressive targets on recruitment, But it's something you can't have. I just don't believe you can have one person do both. You can't aggressively hunt and nurture at the same time. It's like asking somebody to be a hunter and a farmer at the same
Right.
time, right? I mean, the hunter is going to look at the farming utensils and think, okay, I can use this to kill things.
You're-
Um, but yeah, so I think that's part of it, and the other thing I think also we sometimes it's like this with customers too. With our ideal customer profile, sometimes we overestimate the universe of our customers.
Mm.
And I think sometimes we overestimate the universe of our partners, and we think it's just like if you have a competitor and they have all these partners, you think, well, those partners should be my partners as well, right? And you can get kind of caught up in the volume, in the volume game, as
Yeah.
opposed, really focusing on which are the ones that really sync with us.
Right. So, yeah. So that you've got this whole focus on acquisition, partner recruitment, and the inability to shift focus or transition without you maybe starting to miss KPIs on partner
Mhm.
recruitment. And particularly, as you mentioned, if you're chasing volume rather than right fit, right size, right culture partners, you're snapping up whomever. Why do you think, and I'm just picking up on something you mentioned a
Yeah, yeah.
moment ago, why do you think that there is a belief that things then will organically spin up?
Uh,
Is it almost like it feels like dreamland, but I mean, these are hyper intelligent people believing that it'll just get trendy and happen.
Because I think, like I said, I think sometimes you're so invested in your own product or service, you feel so strongly and passionately about it.
Hmm.
You really believe it can, the partner can, and you kind of think that the partner is going to, if you like, they're going to contract that same enthusiasm. You're going to transmit it to them, right? And they're going to go, wow, this is amazing. I have to do this. And I think people fall into that trap. And oftentimes, maybe at the beginning, a partner will be like, wow, this is amazing. Like, I can't believe I'm not selling your product already. This is going to be fantastic. And you put on your happy ears and you think, this is great. This is a committed partner. They're going to run with it. And so you get a bit complacent. And I think that's I think honestly, I think that's part of the problem, is that we're so enthusiastic that we feel like the other person, like once we've explained this to them and once we've given them the commercials, they should be just as excited as us. And as I said, they may be initially, but guess what? When they hang up the phone or the Zoom or the Teams, whatever it is, they have a load of other stuff to do.
Mm.
And that's the thing is, and I think that's the other thing, is that sometimes partner programs, unless you have exclusive partners, who say you sell for us and sell for nobody else, which is one model, and that's a different scenario. But when you have partners that maybe represent multiple products, do a lot of custom work, all of that kind of stuff, um, they don't have a lot of mind share left, and so out of sight, out of mind, and so it's going to atrophy if you don't have that high touch.
Yeah, that's really fascinating. Just the sheer level of focus required.
Mhm.
You mentioned earlier around margin potential or sales opportunities, and I, as a vendor or OEM or manufacturer, I have proven that you can make so much money by on selling what I am enabling you to do. Why is that not enough?
I think it's not enough sometimes because let's be honest, Jeremy. If somebody isn't knocking on the partner's door asking for your product, they are
Mm.
they are likely to be a little bit more skeptical about. Yeah, it all sounds good, but something. I don't really hear that much about your product, or I don't hear people asking me that much about your product, or or maybe I haven't heard of it, or whatever it is, and so despite you could say, I'm going to give you 95 points on everything. I'll give you 100%. Why not? It doesn't mean that they're going to sell it, because they're still going to be skeptical, because you can do all the Excel, spreadsheets you want showing how much money you can make. But if they don't believe it, and if they don't have some evidence for it, so that's why it's really critical if you're starting out a partner program, recruit a couple of partners and really work hard to make them successful, because nothing you say is going to carry as much weight as what a partner says to a partner. If you can show a partner, say, hey, Jeremy, look at this partner over here who joined us, a year ago. Why don't you talk to them? They've made, loads of money with us. They're really happy, blah, blah, blah. You're much likely to be more persuaded by that than anything I say.
Yeah, it really sounds like it's more than look at how much money you could make with us. All you have to do is go sell it.
Yeah.
And it's more of a, how can I get within your team or be alongside your team to unlock that for you?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
What is that unlock?
What is that unlock?
Yeah. How do you enable that? How do you, so that those first couple of partners, what do you do?
I think you have to treat them as a leveraged sales force, and you have to support them in the same way that you would support your direct salespeople. And as much as possible, I think you also need to kind of co-opt them so they feel like they're part of your, that they're a real partner, that they're part of your organization. For instance, like when we have partners, we set them up on Pipeliner and we have them in the system and everything, and they get everything that everybody else gets and that. But I think that's the unlocking part, is making them feel like they're part of your sales organization and treating them like a leveraged sales force and treating them the same as your direct sales people. And that I think is the unlock, is when people feel, okay, they're putting all of their resources at my disposal. They help me. I can talk to their salespeople, all of this kind of stuff. That for me is the key, is when you feel truly supported. So then you're more likely to take a leap of faith.
I really like how you're vocalizing that. That is really powerful. I really like how you're talking about effectively positioning yourself as part of their team, or that they're an extension of your team.
Yeah.
Without there being that arm's length feel.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And the best partner managers I've ever seen are ones who really run it like that. They run it like their own sales team, and they really, support and drive it, and they advocate for them, and they're there, they're always there for them. They're always helping. I mean, for me, that's the key, is you have to run it like they're part of your organization, even when they're not.
Yeah. Is that where some of the disconnects come from, perhaps, that partner manager and the relationship with the internal marketing and sales teams on the partner side?
Yeah, no, I mean, let's face it, channel conflict is always a thing. And so you have to be very careful, especially in the early days, and maybe in the early relationship with the partner. You have to be very careful about how you manage, channel, the potential for channel conflict. As sometimes a direct salesperson will have maybe a company in their database, but one they haven't really done anything with, they haven't even had any contact with. But the minute a partner makes contact with them, suddenly it's their account.
Yeah, right.
And so you have to be very careful about that, and especially in the early days, you have to manage that very, very carefully. And I think also the best way to do things like that is, to get everybody together and say, let's figure out how we can have a win-win situation here. Or sometimes you may have to sort of just tell your direct person, like, okay, this is an early partner. You're just going to have to back up. Meanwhile, here, I'll give you another account or something to make up for this. But I think that's really important, because it can very quickly become an us and them thing, because they're external, and it's very easy for, let's say, a direct salesperson to say, but look, you're giving away 50 points to them. I sell it, you're only paying me 15% commission. Come on, why are you doing this? So you also, I think, have to educate your direct sales force and say, this is why we have a partner strategy. This is how the partners operate. This is how we make sure that there's no conflict or overlap, and look at them as additive rather than subtractive. And maybe there's opportunities for you to work with them. Maybe maybe they're situated somewhere where you have a customer, which could be great for you because maybe you have a local presence that you could leverage to help in your customers. So it could be a win for everybody. But I definitely think you got to hit the channel conflict thing. You've got to head that off at the almost immediately.
Oh yeah, I have seen that more frequent than not, the conflict and the adversarial relationships and disgruntlement. But let's flip the script a little bit. We've been talking about pitfalls. What does a successful partner program look like from your perspective? What's coming?
Yeah, like I said, I mean, a successful partner program is when you really educate the partners. You really educate the partners on your value proposition and you understand their business. So it's a two-way thing. You don't just educate them, you get educated by them. You both, you understand your partners. You provide them with the tools and the assets that they need to be successful. You create newsletters for the partners. You share success stories. So like I said, I've seen the best ones is when it's run by one or two people who are really invested in it and are constantly informing and updating and communicating with the partners. And then over time, starting to focus on the ones that really are performing for you or have the greater potential. And I think the other thing, Jeremy, sometimes we hang on to partners just because it looks good to have a bunch of partners on your website. But I think when you've partners, maybe that it turns out that it's not a good fit, they're not really engaged or whatever, it's much better to sort of go, okay, maybe we should move on from this partnership as opposed to just having these ones on life support because you think it looks good from a numbers point of view. Like, look at all the partners we have. But I think that's self-defeating at the end of the day because even if you only have them on life support, you're still giving them some time or some attention or whatever that you could be using on the productive ones or the ones that have the high potential ones. So I think that's the next thing is you need to have somebody running your partner program who's able to identify the high potentials, able to develop them, and has the discipline to maybe remove the ones that are not performing, that don't have potential, that doesn't look like, that haven't worked out.
Yeah, I totally understand the need for deeper relationships in a almost empathic, empathetic sense of it being a two-way street. And I like how you're talking about that. To what degree would a vendor or the partner manager themselves and even the partner need shared visibility on metrics? Is this something that needs to go deeper into analytics and data beyond just the relationship aspect of what you're talking about?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And that's why I think, when we have partners and we have them in our system and stuff, or if you have a partner and you don't have direct visibility because you have a CRM like we do. I think it's important that they share, they share their data and you share you exchange data. But I think you need that visibility. You absolutely need that visibility into the metrics of their business or the subset that is relative to your partnership, because let's face it, metrics keep us all honest, don't they? And it's a lot easier to focus on the real issues when you have metrics behind it, as opposed to when there's an absence of metrics. We tend to fall back on kind of emotional responses to things and what we assume or what we perceive or things like that. And being, human nature being what it is, we sometimes tend to, almost assume the worst, don't we?
Yeah, well, not just that. I think there's been many cases where partners are fearful because they've experienced the
Sure.
worst, where they get suddenly they're competing with their vendors.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that's not uncommon.
No, it's
in
not.
their past.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong. I mean, running a successful partner program is not easy at all. It's
Mm.
And that's why people who are good at it are worth their weight, I think.
100%. Let's shift the focus onto the CRM itself. Where do CRMs generally fall short when we're thinking about shared responsibility, co-selling, and partnerships?
I think where most CRMs fall down is the fact that they're not really built to accommodate partners. I think companies get very defensive, and they lock up, and you have a tiny bit over here that you have. We take a different approach and we take a different philosophical approach to CRM anyway, in that we see salespeople as entrepreneurs. They're the entrepreneurs in any organization, just like partners are generally entrepreneurs. Because if you take it, salespeople are normally the only people in an organization who a large amount of, and sometimes all of their compensation is variable. The accountant down the hall does a great job and everything, but they're not worrying about how much they're going to get paid this month or next month or whatever, because they know. Salespeople, not so much, and therefore they have to be creative. So we always said, why doesn't the salesperson have all the tools? Why does management have a bunch of tools? The salespeople, why don't we allow them run their own books of business like a business, right? And so the same thing for partners is allow access to all of the tools and allow them, in your CRM to be able to run their business or their book of business, themselves, and just give them access to all the tools and assets you have and welcome them in. Because at the end of the day, the more integrated they feel, the more successful it's going to be. But that's our philosophy around CRM, is like, give people the tools they need to succeed and allow them to be creative then with that tool set.
I love that. You've not heard a CRM philosophy in that way. And I think where my mind goes first is by treating salespeople like entrepreneurs. It's almost like you're treating them as internal partners. And therefore, the structure of enabling your internal partners flows outward into your external partners.
Yeah, I think it's a perfect way of putting it. And that was always our philosophy from the beginning, and from the founder. His philosophy was a salesperson-first approach, right? And building a system that worked for salespeople. Because let's face it, CRMs were built for command and control. And that's originally, that's what they were. And most CRMs today still are the same. It's still built around this, it's sold on this concept of look at all the great reports you're going to get. Look at how you're going to be able to, track and manage your people and all that. And the salespeople are left out of the equation.
Yeah, the dreaded needing to update Salesforce for every task that salespeople talk about.
No, exactly, and the cumbersome, and that's why that's always our driving philosophy has always been to make everything as easy for the salesperson as possible, and to help them, and to inform them, and to equip them so they can do what they do best, which is build a relationship, be creative with solutions. And it's the same thing with partners. Is we want people to focus on the really high value activities of building relationships, of creating creative solutions and stuff. Not on the tech focusing on clicks and I got to input this here and I got to do this and whatever. That's just that's self-defeating.
Yeah, it is, particularly if you're hiring and placing people who are meant to run their own business and you're trying to micro control on task completion.
Yeah, then you're going to get the feedback that I used to get in some of the companies I was in when we actually had Salesforce at a couple of organizations, and if I had $1 for every time a salesperson, I said to Salesforce, Salesforce isn't up to date. Well, do you want me to do data entry or do you want me to sell? And ideally, I'd like you to do both. Well, I'll try to get to it, but I've got all these. And And for me, and to be honest, they were right in many ways because it was cumbersome and horrible. And so taking away that and taking a different approach. And I wrote a book at one stage, Winning the Battle for Sales, and it was analogies between sales situations and famous battles. But I wrote one on CRM, which actually, it's a funny story. Nicholas Kimler, the founder of Pipeliner, read the book, and he contacted me. That's how we got in contact. He contacted me because of the chapter I wrote on CRM, where I basically said, when salespeople hear there's a CRM coming, they just go, "Oh," and the good times are over. And I use the analogy of David and Goliath, because in the story of David and Goliath, David is the king initially gives him the greatest, latest weapons and armor and all of this. And David puts it on, goes and just can't move in this, takes it all off, gives it back, and goes out with his slingshot and takes it down. And my point was, it's simplicity at the end of the day. It's not about complicated, the latest, greatest and all of this. It's about the right tool for the right moment. And for David, that was the right tool for the right moment. And that was so that's our philosophy, is that it should be simple, easy to use. It should be intuitive. It should help you. It should not weigh you down like the armor from the king.
Yeah, what a fascinating approach. And gosh, I think you're having written a book, and then that book unlocking the next chapter of your life is like the ultimate ROI in content marketing.
Yeah, absolutely.
To have been found based on a chapter in a book. That's amazing. What does that look like in practice? I don't think I can even visualize it in the way. How does that philosophical approach translate into the tech to enable salespeople and to enable partners to do what they do best without the friction of using the tech?
I think it's actually it's quite simple at the end of the day. Is number one, salespeople and this goes for partners too, because you're hoping that they'll sell, are generally visual people. So the first thing is, you make it visual, and we visualize as much as we possibly can. The other thing too is we also recognize that people have different styles too, and look at and process information differently. So we provide multiple views of everything. So if you like a visual pipeline, you can have it visual. If you're somebody who actually likes lists, you can do it in a list view or whatever, bubble chart view, map view, whatever. So I think part of it is making it visual, then not forcing people down a particular road, saying you have to view this way. You can view it in the way that works best for you. And then obviously, since the advent of AI, we started working with AI in about 2018, I think, when we brought out a mobile app and we had some AI in that. And then over the last year or so, we've been consistently implementing AI, but AI not for the sake of it, but for AI components that really can take some of the burden off of salespeople, and again help them to be the most informed they can be, and to be able to interact even better with customers. So we have AI tools that can analyze your whole communication thread, email, text, whatever it is, and provide you with a sentiment and see how it's changing, provide you with the notes, the breakdown, extra information, everything, so that you can be more informed when you have that call with your prospect or customer. And that's how it comes alive, Jeremy, is that we look at every way that we can is to make your life easier, but not just easier, to make you better informed, more, have greater insights, and so have the CRM actually working for you, so that when you start your day, you're going to go into your CRM because you're going to say, listen, I have a call with Jeremy. I'm going to go in here. Now I'm going to review all of our contacts. I'm going to see the support stuff. I'm going to see everything that's ever gone on with Jeremy, and I'm going to be able to use AI to help me sort this out and, provide me, with the focus I need here. And that way I'm seeing it as a tool that's actually enabling and helping me, as opposed to something that I have to, after my call, I'm going to go and put this in the CRM. I mean, you can talk to the CRM, you can even put your notes in verbally, and it'll. So we're trying to make it as low overhead as possible for the salesperson. And the other thing that we're doing now, Jeremy, is we're starting to implement AI agents, so that we'll be releasing next week. I think it is next week. We'll be releasing our first reporting agent, so that we're also taking the burden off of you to even learn. You don't even have to learn how to do various things within the system, because you can actually use natural language queries with the reporting coming up. So I can either speak or write in saying, here's the report I need and everything, and it'll start to generate. And then, I can get into a conversation and help it. We have done it with online forms and various other things. And I think that's where we're headed. That's the future, is continuing to lower the learning curve and overhead for somebody to use our CRM, and to leverage agents as much as possible, so that you can basically talk to the system, and now think of how you can unlock the power that perhaps you wouldn't, would have taken you maybe a few months to learn how to do this report or that report or whatever. Now being able to talk to the system, and the system can generate the report, or generate the online form, or whatever it is, or generate the email, whatever it is you need. We're consistently lowering the learning overhead.
This is incredible. So essentially, you plug in and the system adapts to you. Is that where you're headed?
Well, yeah. I mean, the system adapts to you anyway, because it's set up to give you alerts to highlight where things are. So it adapts to you anyway. But I think more to the point is it's making it very simple for you to use, because now, as I said, you don't have to learn so much about it. You can actually just ask it to do things for you. And this is the beauty of the power of agents. And I think this is where AI agents, intelligent agents, can really benefit us. Because I see a day, Jeremy, to be honest, when we'll never learn how to use software again. We will just communicate with the software through natural language.
Well, I think this is answering my next question, but is this what you mean by scaling by capability, not complexity?
Yeah, absolutely. It's part of it. We've always said that, as you know, when you leverage, or when you start to expand and leverage your use of things, it tends to be, the complexity tends to go up, right? We've always said that everything we do, we have to keep it simple and intuitive. And so you can leverage more and more of the system, you can, as you grow, but the complexity level, the learning curve doesn't go up, exponentially as you start to use more of the system. So that's really what I mean by, and now with AI and AI agents and natural language querying, and that, again, you can scale your use of the system without without needing to learn it for months and to have the complexity and all of that. So yeah, that's why scaling with by capability and not complexity, because most systems, as you start to use their more powerful features, the complexity level normally skyrockets.
Absolutely. Awesome. For those channel leaders, partner managers who feel stuck, what would be your advice for them to get unstuck? Where do they start?
That's a great question. I think I always believe, Jeremy, that when you're stuck, or when you're in a rut or whatever, whether you're a salesperson, a partner manager, or whatever it is, whatever role you're in, is the first thing to do is to go back and ask yourself, what were you doing when you weren't stuck? What were you doing when you were, and let's face it, you've had some success in the past, otherwise you wouldn't be in the job that you're in, right? So go back and ask yourself, what did I used to do? And examine your successes in the past. And I'll wager a beer to anyone out there that I guarantee you, or your choice of drink, that you will find that there are some fundamental things that you used to do that you're not doing anymore because you've either, you've become experienced and you've become complacent a little bit. And I always advise is go back and look at when you were successful and really do a good kind of autopsy or analysis on your success in the past and look at everything you did and then ask yourself, am I doing the same things today? Am I paying attention to all of the details? Because I guarantee you that's one of the ways of unsticking yourself, because we all, once we do things for a while, we all become complacent. I always use the analogy, like I do martial arts, right? And sometimes, like, I'll go to class tonight and sometimes my master will say, okay, tonight we're going to do basic footwork, right? And you're going, I've done this, I've done basic footwork, I've been doing this 20 years. Come on, like, I know this. But he'll always find something that you've developed a bad habit, or you're doing something that you slightly differently than you should. And suddenly you realize you always have to revisit the fundamentals. And apparently, I mean, I'm not a basketball fan, but apparently Kobe Bryant, he used to be the first one in the LA Lakers. He used to be the first one in training, like ridiculously early, like 5 a.m. or something, practicing on his own. And you would think probably practicing trick shots and this and everything. No, he's practicing his high school drills, because he knew that in order to be the best and to do all this other stuff he needed to continually revisit the foundation. So that would be my advice to people, is go back and look at the fundamentals, look at the things you used to do, and be honest with yourself and say, am I taking shortcuts now? Am I skipping over things that maybe I think are unnecessary, that I think I'm unnecessary. I don't need to do that anymore because I'm so experienced. For me, that would be the one piece of advice, is just go back and revisit the fundamentals.
Awesome advice. Love it. John, this has been awesome. I'm taking away a lot of this. I need to look into a couple of things more. I need to deep dive into Pipeliner more and get a better understanding of these AI agents, which is pretty exciting, coming out in the coming weeks. Awesome to have you on the show. Thanks so much.
Yeah, listen, it's been a fun conversation. Thank you, Jeremy.